Ladies and gentlemen, there are people in this room tonight who are smiling on the outside, but collapsing on the inside. People who have mastered the art of pretending they're happy, pretending they're fulfilled, pretending they're excited about a life that secretly drains their soul every single day. And the dangerous part is this. Some people have pretended for so long that they no longer recognize who they truly are. They wake up every morning exhausted before the day even begins. Not because their body is tired, because their spirit is starving, because deep down, they know they are ignoring something, a voice, a calling, a dream, a purpose, and maybe tonight, for the first time in years, you are finally ready to stop running from yourself, because there is a pain that money cannot heal, there is a sadness success cannot cover, there is an emptiness applause cannot fix, and it comes from living disconnected from the reason you were born. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can feel it, that pressure in your chest, that frustration you can't explain, that strange feeling that your current life is too small for who you're meant to become. And every single day, your purpose keeps whispering, this is not your final form. But fear keeps interrupting the conversation. Fear says, stay where it's safe. Don't take risks. Don't embarrass yourself. What if you fail? What if people laugh at you? And because people listen to fear, they spend years betraying their own destiny. Listen carefully tonight. There is no safe place for a person who ignores their purpose. You can hide from your calling, but you cannot hide from the emptiness created by abandoning it. That emptiness follows people into relationships, into careers, into success, into money, into achievements, and they still feel incomplete because your soul was never designed to survive without meaning. You can survive without luxury. You can survive without comfort, you can survive without applause, but you cannot survive long while betraying the reason you exist. There are people making 6 figures right now and secretly feeling miserable. There are people surrounded by attention and still feeling alone. There are people achieving goals and still feeling emotionally dead inside. Why? Because achievement without purpose creates emptiness. Purpose is different. Purpose wakes people up internally. Purpose gives suffering meaning. Purpose gives pain direction. Purpose makes people feel alive again. And tonight, I want to speak to the person who feels restless, the person who keeps hearing a voice inside saying, you are made for more. That voice matters. Do not ignore it, because purpose leaves clues. Sometimes it appears as passion, sometimes frustration, sometimes dissatisfaction, sometimes as a dream you cannot forget no matter how hard you try. Some of you have spent years trying to silence a dream that refuses to die. Why? Because it is attached to your assignment. There are books trapped inside people right now, businesses trapped inside people, ideas trapped inside people, leadership trapped inside people, greatness trapped inside people, not because they lack talent, because they lack courage. And courage is not something you are born with. Courage is developed every time you move despite fear, every time you continue despite doubt, every time you choose growth over comfort, you become stronger. But most people never discover their strength because they spend their entire lives avoiding discomfort. And avoidance is expensive. It costs confidence. It costs growth. It costs opportunities. It costs destiny. There are people tonight living in emotional pain because they abandoned their purpose years ago. They chose approval over authenticity, security over calling, comfort over growth. And now their spirit feels disconnected from itself. Listen, you cannot feel fully alive while ignoring who you were created to become. Eventually, the distractions stop working. Eventually, entertainment stops satisfying you. Eventually, the pretending becomes exhausting. And maybe that's why you're here tonight. Maybe life finally forced you to stop running. Maybe the heartbreak woke you up. Maybe the rejection revealed something. Maybe the pain exposed the truth. Because pain changes people. Pain reveals priorities. Pain forces reflection. And some of the most powerful transformations begin in moments where people feel completely broken. Never underestimate what a painful season can produce. Some of the strongest people on earth were built through suffering. Some of the most impactful voices were born from rejection. Some of the greatest leaders once felt lost, confused, and afraid. Your struggle is not always punishment. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes life is building the strength your future requires. But if you quit too early, you will never discover who you could have become. That is why you cannot allow temporary emotions to control permanent decisions. You must learn how to move while afraid, move while uncertain, move while uncomfortable. Because growth rarely feels convenient, transformation rarely feels comfortable, and greatness is never built inside comfort zones. You know what destroys most people? Waiting. Waiting for confidence, waiting for perfect timing, waiting for support, waiting for certainty. But hear me carefully tonight. There will never be a perfect time. Never. The conditions will never be flawless. The fear may never disappear completely. And if you keep waiting for everything to feel perfect, you will waste your entire life waiting. Some people spend decades preparing to live, instead of actually living. Do not become one of them. Start where you are. Start afraid. Start uncertain. Start messy. Start small. But start, because action changes identity, action builds confidence, action creates momentum, and momentum changes lives. Some of you have no idea how powerful you really are, because you have never fully committed to your purpose. You have never met the disciplined version of yourself, the focused version, the relentless version, the unstoppable version, because every time life became difficult, you ran back to comfort. But comfort can become a prison, a beautiful prison. A socially acceptable prison, but still a prison, and millions of people are trapped there right now, trapped in routines that slowly suffocate their spirit, trapped in environments that weaken their vision, trapped in relationships that shrink their potential, trapped in fear disguised as practicality. And then they wonder why they feel empty. You cannot create a meaningful future while remaining addicted to safety. At some point, you must choose comfort or calling, fear or growth, excuses or transformation, because every day you ignore your purpose, a part of you suffers. Sometimes that suffering looks like anxiety, sometimes exhaustion, sometimes bitterness, sometimes emotional numbness. But deep down, the root problem is the same: misalignment. Your soul knows when you are living beneath your potential, and that internal conflict drains people. I want to ask you something tonight. What would happen if you finally stopped underestimating yourself? What would happen if you truly committed to becoming who you were meant to become? How different would your life look in 5 years? How different would your family look? How many people could be inspired by your courage? How many lives could change because you finally stopped playing small? Never underestimate the ripple effect of one transformed human being. One disciplined soul can shift generations. One courageous decision can alter bloodlines. One person refusing to settle can create opportunities for people they may never even meet. Your purpose is bigger than you. That's why ignoring it is so dangerous. When you abandon your purpose, you are not only abandoning yourself, you are abandoning everyone connected to your impact. Somebody needs your story. Somebody needs your leadership. Somebody needs your voice. Somebody needs your example. But fear has convinced too many people to remain silent, and silence destroys destiny. There are gifted people everywhere, talented people, creative people, brilliant people. But gifts alone mean nothing without courage. Potential means nothing without action. Dreams mean nothing without discipline. And discipline is where most people disappear, because everybody wants the reward. Few people want the process. Few people want the lonely mornings, the difficult nights, the repeated failures, the internal battles, the sacrifices. But understand this tonight. The process is not punishment. The process is preparation. Every difficult season is building something: strength, wisdom, endurance, character. And the person your future requires cannot be created without pressure. Pressure reveals strength. Pressure exposes weakness. Pressure forces growth. That's why you cannot run every time life becomes uncomfortable. Growth requires discomfort. Healing requires discomfort. Transformation requires discomfort. And if you keep avoiding discomfort, you will keep avoiding greatness. Some of you are waiting for motivation. Forget motivation. Motivation changes daily. Purpose is deeper. Purpose keeps people moving during difficult seasons. Purpose gives suffering meaning. Purpose creates resilience. When you know why you are fighting, you can survive almost anything. That's why discovering purpose changes everything. People with purpose move differently. They protect their energy differently. They use time differently. They handle adversity differently, because now they understand something powerful. Their existence matters. And once a person truly believes their life has meaning, they stop wasting themselves. They stop shrinking. They stop apologizing for dreaming big. They stop allowing insecure people to define their limits. Listen carefully. Not everybody around you wants to see you grow. Some people benefit from your insecurity. Some people feel comfortable when you play small. Some people secretly hope you never discover your power, because your growth reminds them of their excuses. And the moment you begin evolving, some relationships will change. Some people will misunderstand you. Some people will criticize you. Some people will leave. Do not fear that. Growth requires separation. You cannot become extraordinary while remaining attached to everything ordinary. Sometimes purpose requires isolation, not permanent isolation, necessary isolation. Moments where you disconnect from noise so you can hear yourself clearly again. Because the world is loud, opinions are loud, Distractions are loud, fear is loud, and many people are so consumed by noise that they can no longer hear their own calling. That is dangerous. You must protect your mind, protect your vision, protect your spirit, because purpose is fragile during early stages, and if you expose your dream to too much negativity, doubt will grow. There are dreams that died because their owners kept listening to fearful people. Do not allow average thinking to destroy extraordinary possibilities. Do not allow insecure voices to silence your future. And hear this tonight, your age does not disqualify you. Your past does not disqualify you. Your failures do not disqualify you. Some people think because they made mistakes, their story is over. No, your mistakes are chapters, not your identity. Your setbacks are lessons, not your destiny. You can rebuild, you can recover, you can reinvent yourself, but only if you stop speaking defeat over your own life. Words matter. The way you speak to yourself matters. Some people destroy themselves internally every single day. I'm not enough. I always fail. It's too late. I can't change. And after repeating those words long enough, they begin living like prisoners. You must become intentional about the language you feed your spirit, because your mind listens, your confidence listens, your future listens, and eventually your actions follow your beliefs. If you believe you are powerless, you will behave powerlessly. If you believe your life has no meaning, you will waste time carelessly. But when you finally understand that your existence carries purpose, everything changes. Your standards rise, your discipline increases, your focus sharpens, your tolerance for mediocrity disappears. Because now you understand the value of your life, and one of the most dangerous things in the world is a human being who finally realizes their potential. That kind of person becomes unstoppable, not because life becomes easy, because they become intentional, focused, resilient, disciplined. They stop negotiating with excuses, they stop waiting for rescue, they stop blaming circumstances, and they begin taking responsibility for their transformation. That is where power begins. Responsibility. Not excuses, not blaming, not complaining, responsibility. And let me tell you something that may sound harsh tonight. Nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is going to magically transform your life while you remain passive. You must participate in your own rescue. You must fight for your future, fight for your vision, fight for the person you are capable of becoming. Because if you do not fight for your destiny, distractions will steal it, comfort will steal it, fear will steal it, and regret will eventually replace it. Regret is one of the heaviest pains a human being can carry, because regret whispers, late at night, in silence, during birthdays, during lonely moments, during old age. Regret asks painful questions. What if you had tried? What if you had believed in yourself? What if you had stopped hiding? What if you had become who you were meant to become? I never want you to reach the end of your life carrying those questions. Life is too precious to spend decades disconnected from purpose, too precious to spend years pretending, too precious to waste your gifts. And remember this, time is moving, whether you act or not, whether you believe in yourself or not, whether you chase purpose or not. The clock keeps moving. One day you are young with endless possibilities. Then suddenly years disappear, and many people wake up too late. Too late to chase dreams. Too late to repair relationships. Too late to become who they wanted to become. Do not wait until pain forces change. Choose growth before crisis arrives. Choose courage before desperation appears. Choose discipline before consequences become unbearable. And understand something important tonight. Purpose is not always discovered in dramatic moments. Sometimes purpose reveals itself quietly. Through curiosity, through passion, through persistent ideas, through dreams that refuse to leave your mind. Pay attention to what keeps calling you, because purpose leaves clues. The problem is many people are too distracted to notice. Scrolling, escaping, avoiding, numbing themselves, anything to avoid facing the truth. And the truth is this: you are capable of far more than your current life reflects, far more. But capability means nothing without commitment. Potential without action is tragedy, and the graveyard is filled with unrealized potential. People who waited too long, people who doubted themselves into silence, people who allowed fear to make their decisions. Do not become another buried possibility. The world does not need another person hiding their greatness. The world needs people willing to rise, willing to lead, willing to create, willing to inspire, willing to become. And yes, becoming is painful. Growth destroys old identities. Growth challenges comfort. Growth exposes insecurity. But growth also unlocks destiny, and maybe tonight, for the first time in years, you are finally ready to stop ignoring your purpose.